Quest to Succeed, Chapter 30. Like any other day, he sat down with his cup of tea. An Asian teacher, Arif, came and sat down next to him. He looked a little perturbed and confused. He said to Jay that the head of physics, with whom he taught his subject, has told him that all inventions and new research has been done by the Europeans and white people. There has been no contribution by the other races and countries in the field of science and technology. Jay laughed at the ignorance of the head of physics and told his Asian colleagues that you should have explained to him about the Indian contribution in various fields, especially in mathematics. He added, I could not fight your battle but asked the physics teacher to discuss with me about the achievements and contribution to science and technology by people, apart from the Europeans, who had sometimes stolen the ideas and presented as their own, which was pure plagiarism. There had been a great deal of misconception about the Indian contribution because of foreign rule for many centuries. India was politically and militarily controlled by the British for almost 190 years. Moreover, ignorance was non-excusable. If the physics teacher was ignorant about India and other countries, it did not mean that their achievements did not exist. He should have attempted to explore and ascertain their contribution before expressing his views or displaying his unawareness and oblivion. Jay reminded Arif that Aryabhat, an Indian mathematician, wrote the first book of mathematics and calculus. Egyptians gave algebra. Bakhshali manuscript showed that the symbol 0, 0 evolved in India in the 3rd century AD. This manuscript was now deposited at the Bodleian Library, Oxford, England. He could go there and verify it. In the early 20th century, Srinivasa Ramanujan Iyengar, who lived from 1887 to 1920, was a great mathematician. In 1913, he taught at Cambridge University with G. H. Hardy, who invited him as a visiting lecturer. His contribution was in theorems. Ramanujan Iyengar compiled 3,900 identities and equations. He was the youngest fellow of the Royal Society and the first Indian to be elected as a fellow of the Trinity College, Cambridge. Jay continued to explain that India was not only a religious country and had a religious philosophy, but it also has made enormous contribution to the growth of natural science and astronomy. He added that Acharya Kanad, also known as Kaushik, was the father of the atomic theory. Nagarjuna gave chemistry. Bhagyan gave the theorem of Pythagoras. Acharya Chanak provided Ayurveda, the health science. Bhaskar Acharya researched on the law of gravitation. Bharadwaj was the father of aeronautics. Indians built aeroplane many thousand years ago. They sent rockets to other planets. A dilapidated factory was found in the western Indian state of Gujarat, which built aeroplane to fly across the country and to other nations. 7,000 years ago, the Puspak Vimana, an aeroplane, brought Ram, Sita, Lakshman, Vibhishana and Hanuman from Lanka, now Sri Lanka, to Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh, India. A bridge was built from Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu, South India to Lanka. The NASA verified in the later part of the 20th century that stones used to construct the bridge were 7,000 years old, though the sand could be just over 3,500 years old. Arth Shastra, the treatise on political economy, was written by Kautilya Chanakya. It describes the theory of taxation and the systems to maintain all kinds of records in the state. Poet Kalidas wrote Shakuntala, Kumar Shambhav, Raghuvansh, Meghdut, and many other plays and poetry books which had no parallel in other languages or country. Vatsayana wrote books on judicial and legal system. Rishi Patanjali gave yoga to the world. He also authored a book on the interpretation of mathematics. In ancient India, all researchers and professors were called Acharya, Rishi, and Maharishi. India's 2 great epics were well known all over the world. The Ramayana by Valmiki was a biography of Ram in poetry form. It had all the characteristics of literature, dealing with anger, chivalry, affection, love, laughter, comedy, compassion, mercy, disgust, aversion, horror, terror, amazement, peace, and tranquility. It also explains and expresses that people should show respect to others, and the king should address the problems of the state, as well as look after the interests of the public in the state. The Mahabharata was a treaty on politics, discussing the social contract theory. It emphasized the rules of warfare and the use of weapons in war, policies for administration and providing justice to people. It also considered the teachings of Hinduism. The Bhagavad Gita is an integral part of this epic. The Bhagavad Gita had been translated into 140 languages and more. In the 20th century, quite a few Indian scientists have made contribution in the field of natural sciences. Sir C.V. Raman discovered that when light passes through a transparent material, some of the deflected light changes in wavelength. He was the first Indian to receive Nobel Prize in Physics. Homi Bhabha was a nuclear physicist. He argued for peaceful use of nuclear power and its use for industrial development. Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose was the father of radio. He was the first to use semiconductor junction to detect radio waves. He invented various microwave components and studied metal fatigue. He also showed to the world that plants breathe, grow, and are sensitive to climate change. Vikram Sarabhai was astrophysicist and astronomer who initiated space research in India. He fabricated a satellite. The Indian scientists put their first satellite, Aryabhata, into orbit in 1975. Sisir Kumar Mitra made contribution in the field of radiophysics and electronics. Meghnad Saha was an astrophysicist who devised the theory of thermal ionization. He invented an instrument to measure the weight and pressure of solar rays. Hargovind Khorana, born in Peshawar, demented and broke the genetic code, which translated DNA sequences into protein molecules that carry out the functioning of the living cells. He did all his research in the United States of America. The contribution of Indian scientists continued into the later part of the 20th century and in the 21st century. They contributed through the United States projects in NASA. It would be good to recall Ashwin Vasananda for the Mars Curiosity mission. Sharman Bhattacharya examined the effects of radiation and altered gravity on living systems. Kamlesh Lula helped astronauts to land safely through remote sensing. Other scientists of Indian origin working at NASA included Sunita Williams, Kalpana Chawla, Meya Mayappan, Anita Sen Gupta, Madhulika Guha Thakurta, and Suresh Kulkarni. They all have made significant contribution in the space research and in space exploration. Jay explained that the highest peak in the Himalayas was known as the Everest, after the name of George Everest, who was the Surveyor General of India during the British rule. After his retirement, Andrew Waugh was appointed the Surveyor General of India. He wanted to know the height of the peak of the mountain Himalaya. In 1852, Radha Nath Sidkar, an Indian mathematician and surveyor of Bengal, was the first to identify the Everest as the highest peak. He used trigonometric calculation based on Nicholson's measurement for this purpose. It was designated as the Peak 15, at the height of 8,840 meters, 29,002 feet. Andrew Waugh called this peak after the name of his predecessor, Everest. Sikdar's contribution had remained unrecognized because of the British imperialism in India. Sikdar was considered as a subordinate to the British Waugh. You must not forget that in 1953, Tenzing Norgay, a Nepali Sherpa but Indian citizen, reached this peak, along with Edmund Hillary of New Zealand. Because of various invasions in the Middle Ages, India lost its visible contribution. The Nalanda University in Bihar, India, had 9 million books. These were burnt in 1192 on the orders of Bakhtawar, a Turkish zealot. Bakhtawar questioned, how could a nation have superior culture when it had been defeated by foreign warriors? The Indian civilization was, moreover, philosophical and respected all faiths. Her culture and history had mostly been one of learning and diversity, which had been damaged by persistent aggression, imperialism, and foreign rule in the last 800 years. India lost a great deal during this period. Jay stressed that India's gross domestic product, GDP, was the highest in the world in the first 1,500 years of the era. It was second in the 16th and 17th centuries in the world. It, however, declined with the takeover of Indian administration by the British, who started to loot and drain the Indian treasury and the wealth. India provided 46% of world gross domestic product, GDP, when the British took over in 1757. It was 1.7% of world GDP when they left India in 1947. They made India poor in just 190 years because of loot and plunder. The loot was counted equal to 45 trillion US dollars in today's price. Kohinoor Hera, diamond, was taken from Maharaja Ranjit Singh of Punjab and given to the British Queen Victoria as a gift. The British still have to return it to the Indians.